Hi, and welcome to this short introductory video on demand planning within the Anaplan Applications. My name is Emily Nichols. I look after solutions consulting for the Applications division, and I'll be taking you through this demonstration today. Before we get there, I wanted to take an overview of the entire process. So we see here the different verticals, or largely corresponding to the different themes within your company. And below that, we see the deep functionality underneath those verticals. And we see the flow of data here from left to right. So the historical data flooding in, that can be coming from any source system. We're completely agnostic when it comes to integration. You see some examples here along the bottom. It's not always just, master or transactional data, but anything that is relevant to the planning process. So you may also want to set up some integrations with your CRM, for example. Based on all of that rich historical data, we will generate a baseline forecast. And on top of that baseline forecast, we're going to add various events. And different teams will get involved in adding those events, all coming together to a final consensus plan. That consensus plan gets thrown over the fence to the broader supply planning piece. So all of your inventory management and production planning as well. All of this functionality is leveraging the Anaplan platform, so you still get all the benefits of the platform that you would expect. In today's demonstration, we're going to be focusing up here on quite a specific story, which is really taking that baseline forecast, adding a couple of events as an account manager, and seeing how my plan floods through to a consensus along with my various colleagues in different teams here. So moving into the platform itself, I've landed here on an administrative view. And the reason it's an administrative view is that I see here all the different roles that can access this application. So behind each of these windows is a sort of handcrafted UI where the individual will log in and see just the information that is relevant to them. So if I start this journey here as a demand analyst, when I log in, let's say on a Monday morning, I'm faced with the information that is most relevant to me. I can see in the top right-hand corner, in this case, my product hierarchy, and I'm going to interact with this at product group level first in the first instance. The KPIs along the top are highlighting to me any inconsistencies within my dataset. Do I have issues with forecast accuracy? Am I seeing positive or negative bias? And where do I have sort of outliers that might need correcting before I start undertaking that forecasting activity? Here on the left-hand side are a variety of planning options. So first up, history correction, which would be to deal with those outliers. I can see I've got 3 within my phone category list here. Also product chaining. Product chaining is where we can set up relationships between your product list. Here we see an example of a product, the 16 gig smartphone, inheriting history from a couple of other products within the same category. So this is really where you would manage any super sessions within your dataset. The most straightforward example is inheriting 100% of the history and depleting the source by 100%, which is a complete like-for-like match. But as we see here, there is the option to blend together multiple historical datasets. History correction is an automated activity, and once I've set up my product chains, the system is then ready to undertake generating that baseline forecast. We see here a number of options within the statistical forecasting engine, including a variety of analytical dashboards. Today, I'm just going to focus on exactly how we generate the forecast in the first place. If I take this graph piece by piece, first of all, we see our adjusted history flooding in. So that's after all of the outlier correction has taken place and it's respecting any change that I've set up. So that's my adjusted history. And we see here a testing window. So over that testing window, I'm going to apply every single one of these algorithms that we see to the left-hand side. Whichever one fits the best is the one that will be used as the forecast going forward. We see that best fit methodology here as the dark blue line. The lighter blue line at the moment is mimicking to be the same, but it gives me the option to run through a number of different algorithms here and see how those would differ to the suggested best fit algorithm. The algorithms are applied at every single level of the hierarchy. So if I roll up to the phones category here, I'm applying those algorithms to that historical data set at the phones level. We see here another visualization, which is best fit method sum. If I were to aggregate the individual forecasts under this phone category and sum them up, then I would get this gray line, as opposed to a forecast being generated at the aggregate level itself. There's a slight difference here that's important. We can help you with understanding which level of your hierarchy you should be generating a forecast, and we do that by looking at things such as the coefficient of variation here. One of the unique features of this forecasting engine is that it is totally transparent, and you have the power to alter how this forecast is generated. So one simple example of this would be changing the stretch of the testing window here. I have a number of parameters up here in the left-hand corner, and you'll see these on most dashboards within the applications. The ones to the right-hand side are showing the global or default parameters. That's what's going to be applied if I don't come in and make any overrides. And to the left-hand side is where I can come in and affect those parameters. So in this example, I'm going to shrink this testing window. I'm going to shrink it to be just 12 periods. So I'm going to be a lot more reactive in generating that forecast. There are a number of parameters that I can flex. So lead time offset is going to control where the window sits, sort of moving that window forwards or backwards in time. We will help you understand which parameters you should be using according to your data set. Once you've set them up once, it will respect those rules. And this is not something that you have to come in and complete as a planning activity every single time. But the point is you've got that flexibility for those exceptional cases where you do need to come in and make a change. One clear example of this would be the COVID pandemic, where history was not the same measure that it used to be. And we saw people really reducing these testing windows, being a lot more reactive, because the past 3 months was a better set of data to extrapolate than the past 3 years, for example. So that baseline forecast is then set ready for me to add events on top, either as a product manager introducing new products or marking them as end of life, somebody who looks after promotions. In this case, I'm going to take on the role of an account or sales planner here. So again, if I'm an account manager, when I log on, this is my homepage. This is what I'm going to see first of all. I see the products and the customers that I look after, essentially within just my region. I can see how my commercial plan is varying compared to the machine-generated plan, that's final statistical forecast that we see here in dark blue. And I can see how it's changed from one planning period to the next. So my current commercial plan is quite a bit higher in this case than my prior commercial plan. I see my largest customers by revenue, and I can see what opportunities are coming down the line. This is a good example where the system is integrated with a CRM. Opportunities over a certain stage gate or over a certain probability will be reflected in my demand plan here. At the bottom, I have more of a strategic view, annual, over the next 3 years. When I need to affect the plan, I'll come into my commercial planning space here. The visualization is showing me my history. This is all in terms of value or revenue in this case. I can see what the statistical forecasting engine has said before any human intervention. I see here what my final commercial plan is. So this is the one that I have affected. And as before, I can see my prior commercial plan as well. Currently, I've got quite a long-term strategic view. If I would like this to make this a little bit more tactical, I can reduce the amount of forecasting periods and take this to future only. I can interact with my hierarchy at any time to plan at different levels here. So I'm going to focus up on this 32 gig smartphone as an example of somewhere where I want to make a change. Scrolling down, I can see a table here that gives me the detail of everything I'm looking at in the visualization above. If I want to come in and make an override, I have the option to do so within a free text field here. So I'm going to flatten out this weeks 21 to 23 with 30,000 units across each week. You'll notice anytime I have an input field, it's this purple color. So it's clearly highlighted to me that's something both that I can edit, or if I come in as a different user here, I know that someone else has edited that field. If I want to know who, I have a full audit feature behind these entry fields. So looking at the past 24 hours, I'm able to see that I have changed this figure and exactly at what time and date that's happened. I also see here uplifts due to promotional activities that are taking place. So I see the uplift in units, but I also see the impact due to the discount being provided, and the pricing change is highlighted to me in yellow here. So where the price drops down and then where it recovers again by week 18. It makes it very easy for me to understand how and why this contribution margin may dip between those periods. Finally, I'm going to add some commentary here as to why I made those changes in the first place. And that reason is actually consistent across all of those weeks. So I'm going to copy paste. If you would like to use reason codes rather than free text so that we can take a look at things like forecast value add at a later date, then that's absolutely possible as well. Now that I'm happy with all of my changes as a commercial planner, let's take a look at the consensus plan, where I'll be able to see various different teams have come in and made their changes. We see here the pure statistical forecast, the one that's been generated by the machine before any changes. We can see where the demand planner has come in and affected that forecast. What I have said as a commercial lead, we see is a little bit higher here. And finally, we have an example of a marketing plan. In our world, in this example, that means that somebody has come in and taken a look at our current market share today, how that market share might change, a very high level strategic sort of plan that we disaggregate down to this lowest level so that we can do a bit of a gap analysis with more of the operational plans that we see here. You can bring any plan into this consensus planning process. So if you would like a pure financial plan, potentially budget to be in this view, then that's absolutely fine. We would include that as well. The dark black line, the consensus plan, is the one that is going to be thrown over the fence to supply. And the basis for that plan can be any of the plans that we've chosen to bring forward here. And we can change the consensus basis at any time using a consensus basis override that we see down here below the visualization. To the right-hand side, we can see more uplifts and downturns. So I have an uplift here from January of next year of 15% due to an expected surge in demand. And that's following here more of an adverse effect. So I'm pulling down the forecast by 10% between the months of September to December. Let me make that one effective. And again, we'll see in near real time that final consensus plan drop within the visualization above. In order to help me understand which plan is going to be the best to give the consensus basis to, I'm going to want to take a look at forecast accuracy. We see here through a series of archiving events, the forecast accuracy back over time for all of my different plans. If you find that your statistical forecast is consistently the most accurate, you may want to remove some of the overlays that are taking place within your teams. Equally, you may find that the commercial plan is consistently under forecasted, and that sort of bias can then be rectified either through business process change or mathematically further down the line. Finally, let me take a zoomed out view again of a home page here. Again, an administrative homepage, but rather than looking at user roles, I see all of the functionalities here through a prepare, plan, and review process. Before we undertake any forecasting activity, this prepare layer is absolutely vital. We talked a little bit about history correction, and we saw an example of some supersession within our product list. That's when the baseline forecast is then automatically generated, and we can come in and drop various events on top of that baseline forecast, all culminating in this consensus plan. Finally, there are a number of review dashboards here that let you analyze things such as forecast accuracy and bias. Please do check out our inventory planning video, which takes that consensus forecast, disaggregates it across the network for you to then undertake that inventory planning by location. Alternatively, please contact us to schedule a personal demo where we can go into a little bit more detail on any areas that you would like more information on. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope to hear from you soon.